I must confess that whenever I read this story of Martha and Mary, I have a lot of compassion and sympathy for Martha. I mean, after all, she's serving Jesus, she's made him a nice meal, she's taking care of his needs, and she's burdened with much serving. And so it's natural to think that Jesus' response would be, yes, Martha, you're right. Okay, Mary, it's been wonderful. Thank you for listening to me, but now it's time to help your servant, help your sister, Martha. Martha's vindicated, story is over. But that's not what Jesus does. Why doesn't he respond in that way? What Jesus is doing in this response is not scolding or negating Martha, but there's a key phrase in this gospel which unlocks the message that Jesus is conveying. There is need of only one thing. There is need of only one thing. And what is that one thing? It's Jesus. Jesus himself, and more specifically, resting at his feet, as Mary was doing. Jesus is always teaching us, especially in simple moments such as going to visit the house of his friends, something that he would do frequently to the house of Martha, Mary, and Lazarus. We can imagine in this scene, Mary is just enraptured by Jesus' words. She's hooked. She's contemplating him, as one would do at Eucharistic adoration or in front of the tabernacle right here. And she's just receiving from him, receiving from his feet. And this is the invitation that Jesus offers not only to Martha, but to us as well. Life is busy. I don't need me to tell you that it's busy with family life, school, work, ministry, a lot of good and important things that we should do. It's not an either or, I only contemplate or I only serve. No, both are needed. But without keeping Jesus as the center, as the source of our life, as the one thing we need, this is where things can tend to go off the rails a little bit. And this pivot that he's inviting Martha into is what he's speaking to us this morning. We talk a lot about burnout in our culture today, whether that be burnout with work, burnout with ministry, even burnout in relationships. And if you think about the image of a fire, if you don't put new logs, fresh wood upon the fire, or if you somehow cut off the oxygen supply, that fire is going to burn out. It's not going to keep going, or it'll burn very, very lightly. And likewise in friendships, if you don't make time to spend time with your friends, to talk with each other with some regularity, then friendship will be stale. And even in marriages, if husbands and wives don't spend time talking to each other every day, that love, it's going to fizzle out and burn away. Jesus, he's correcting Martha not because she's doing something wrong necessarily, but just that gentle reminder that we all need, myself included, to rest at the feet of Jesus and receive from him. He's grateful for her hospitality, but he's reminding Martha and he's reminding us that communion with him is the one thing that we truly need and the source of all of our life. Life is busy. You also know that it's difficult to make this time in the midst of our day and our week to sit with Jesus in prayer and to spend time with him in today's world. And even when we do find those minutes to pray, oftentimes distractions come into being. Oh goodness, I forgot to text that person back or respond to that email, or oh, shoot, I forgot to get this at the grocery store. And so we're trying to sit at the feet of Jesus, we're trying to pray, but then distractions come to mind, and this can be really discouraging. But Jesus, as he spoke tenderly to Martha, so he speaks tenderly to us. A little detail that if you didn't pick up, and Deacon Rod proclaimed it so beautifully, the detail of Martha, Martha, with tenderness. Whenever Jesus uses someone's name twice, it's from a place of tenderness, like my dear one, Martha, Martha, calm down, come be with me. There's a saint he's become one of my favorites in recent years. His name is Saint Francis de Sales, and he was a bishop in France in the late 1500s, early 1600s. And one of the key teachings that he preached during his time, which was pretty revolutionary for his particular age, was the belief and the truth that holiness and spending time with God are meant for everyone, regardless of your state in life. You see, because back in the day, and without being wrong, it was thought, okay, if you want to be holy, if you want to spend time with Jesus, you become a priest or you become a nun. And then everyone else, you just kind of live your life and that's it. And he was saying, no, 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 that's not true. You could point to this gospel for proof. Martha was actively serving his needs. Mary was contemplating before him. They were out in the world, but the invitation was for them both to contemplate, to rest, and to be with Jesus. And St. Francis de Sales, he offers this really beautiful image of devotion being possible for all. He says, if you're an artisan or a shopkeeper, back in his day, you could say a small business owner or a worker in our day, you're called to glorify God by inviting him into your day, maybe with a little prayer at the beginning of your work to glorify God. If you're a monk or a nun, yet your life is dedicated in a deeper way to prayer. And so you're called to glorify God and pray not only for yourself, but also for the church and the world being united with Jesus. If you're a husband or wife, especially with young children, you're called to remain with the Lord and offer your family life to Jesus. And whether that's 5 minutes when you wake up in the morning and the kids are still asleep, or you're rocking the baby and you have just that quiet time during nap time, invoking the name of Jesus and spending time with him, that's prayer. That's sitting at the feet of Jesus in a way for us to be contemplative like Mary in the midst of our service like Martha. And when we spend this daily time with Jesus, it transforms us. It not only draws us closer to him, but it also gives us greater interior peace, a greater sense of purpose, and a greater sense of recollection, just being at peace with ourselves, even in the midst of the busyness of what we're doing. There's a painting that I discovered this past spring in one of my classes actually talking about the life of prayer and contemplation. It's this painting by the Dutch artist Johannes Vermeer called The Milkmaid from the 1600s. And it's a very simple painting in a lot of ways. You can Google it, The Milkmaid. But it's this woman, this kitchen maid, and she's just pouring milk into this simple earthen vessel in her kitchen. But you can see on her face just the sense of peace, like she's totally absorbed in her work. It's a very simple task before her, but the sense of peace and focus in her face, and even in her body language. She's working, but there's this sense of being united to the Lord in what she's doing. It's not an explicitly religious painting, but my professor brought it up as an example for us to show, what the Lord's inviting us into. He's not saying, okay, if you're serving in ministry or working, quit your job, quit ministry, and, just be in church all day. But he's saying, remember to be with me, to spend time at my feet, to receive that source of life, which is me, to be nourished, so you can have that sense of peace, of purpose, of union with me in the midst of all that you're doing. We're nourished by sitting at the feet of Jesus, most certainly in prayer, in simple prayers such as, Lord, I love you, please be with me throughout this day. Or Lord, it's just one of those really busy days and things seem to be going wrong, please help me out. Or Lord, I'm worried about my child or my friend, my spouse, my neighbor, whomever, please take care of them. These are simple ways we can rest at the feet of Jesus in the midst of all that we're doing. But most especially, we're nourished by Jesus in the Eucharist. It's amazing because Martha is offering Jesus a physical meal, which is good. Jesus had to eat, just like we have to eat. And he's thanking her for that meal. But he says, Martha, I want to serve you. I want to feed you with my words and then with my own body and blood on the cross. The same Jesus who Mary was contemplating is present in the tabernacle. He'll be present on this altar in a few moments. He's present in Eucharistic adoration. That's the same Jesus who was speaking to them, who speaks to us and calls us to rest at his feet, to contemplate him and to remain with him. And so if you don't pray every day, I understand, life is busy. It's difficult to carve out that time for prayer. But I invite you to take some time today, this weekend, to look at your week and kind of look at your daily schedule and think, okay, what is some time that I can set aside each day just to rest with Jesus? If you're a morning person, if that's with your first cup of coffee, spending some time with the Lord, whether it's just simple prayer or reading the Bible, great. If it's on the way to work, listening to the rosary or the daily readings, a podcast, or simply just spending time in quiet with Jesus, great. It's before bed, whatever works for you. Again, remember St. Francis de Sales, devotion being based on our particular circumstances in life. But make that time daily to be nourished at the feet of Jesus. because one, he so desires to offer it to us. He loves us so much and he wishes to offer that to us every day. And so we can be united with him even in the midst of our busy lives. And so, brothers and sisters, as we approach this altar to receive Jesus in the Eucharist, the same Jesus who spoke these words of tenderness to Mary and Martha, let us ask him for the grace to receive all the life he wishes to give us so that we can be nourished by him who is the one thing, one person we most need.